One of the projects that I lead for AGE-WELL is called Assistive Technologies that Care for the Caregiver. There are three main objectives, if you will, for that project. One of them is to better understand what are the consequences of taking on care responsibilities for caregivers. And from that, working with caregivers to understand how those consequences translate into needs for the caregivers and needs that might be met through assistive technologies. The second piece is trying to understand what their capacity is to deal with, to adopt, and to successfully use assistive technologies that either already exist or might exist in the future. The third objective is to develop a tablet and computer-based app and accompanying database called Innova.
Innova is designed to collect design precedents. The idea with it is to find as many examples of Canadian designed and manufactured AT objects, and then the database becomes a resource for design innovators to look through and see what kinds of products exist and also what kinds of gaps there are.
We're using a multi-method approach to understanding the needs of caregivers. One approach is to look at national data sets around caregivers to understand how caregiving impacts their health, their social lives, their financial security, their employment. A second method is also using a national data set, but looking at the digital literacy skills of caregivers. And then the third method we're using is what's called precedent-based research to find the assistive technologies, products and services that are out there for caregivers to see, how it meets the needs, what kind of needs are met, and that helps us identify where the gaps are in existing assistive technologies for caregivers.
So when we talk about assistive technologies and policy so that caregivers can be able to take better care of themselves, we don't know what that looks like. There hasn't been a ton of research on the assistive technology side. We're excited about the potential and the possibilities. We do believe in the voice of caregivers involved in that because there's no point in creating things that are not going to be useful and practical for caregivers as they are today. And as we see them going into the future, we know that there will, in our lifetimes, we will either be a caregiver or need care. And so that's an incredibly important piece to remember and to be thinking of in the future of how we can make that easier.
We have learned that caregivers do in fact experience financial and health and social consequences as a result of their caregiving, something that has been demonstrated in the past and in other research, but we've confirmed that. And we have done some work on trying to figure out how those consequences translate into needs that might be met through existing or future assistive technologies. The other thing we've learned is that some of the assumptions about older adults, in particular older caregivers, older workers, that they are not tech savvy, that they can't keep up with technological change is simply not supported by the evidence.
The findings that we've discovered through our using and creating our Innova app and collecting AT precedent is that there are very few products that are available directly for caregivers. There's many products that are available for care recipients or caregivers and care recipients combined, but there is a distinct gap of products available for caregivers. So we see this as a very significant area in which design innovators could contribute.
Join us at www.agewell-nce.ca.